My parents canceled the luxury cruise I gifted them, calling me with fake concern about a storm. 6 hours later, I saw their Instagram story: sunny skies, champagne, and lies. I didn't confront them. I made one silent call. The next morning, they called me in a panic, and my response?
Calm. Cold.
Unforgettable. I've always been the one people could count on. The responsible daughter, the planner, the one who never forgets birthdays or lets anything slip through the cracks. My name's Emma Brooks, and I live in Miami, Florida. I work as a travel consultant, and I'm good at it, not just because I know how to plan trips down to the finest detail, but because I genuinely love creating beautiful experiences for people. Maybe that's why it hurts so much when the people I trusted most decided I wasn't worth the truth. My parents, Linda and Michael Brooks, live up in Tampa. We weren't always close, but we were good enough. Growing up, we didn't have a lot. Dad ran a small plumbing business, and Mom was a schoolteacher until she retired 2 years ago. They were never the warm and fuzzy kind, but I figured they did their best. And after I started working and earning well, I felt like I could give them what they couldn't always give me: comfort, time off, a taste of something a little extra. So last spring, I booked them a luxury cruise to the Bahamas. 5 days, all-inclusive, balcony rooms, spa credits, the works. It was my treat, something I thought they'd love and appreciate. I didn't tell them right away. I wanted it to be a surprise. When I finally did, Mom cried a little, and Dad said, "Wow, that's generous even for you." I smiled. That's all I needed. Their trip was supposed to start on a Thursday. I remember that day clearly: sunny skies in Miami, my friend Chloe and I sipping iced coffee on the porch, talking about weekend plans. Around 2 p.m., I got a call from Dad. "Hey, sweetie," he said, sounding a little off. "Listen, your mom and I were watching the weather. They're saying a big thunderstorm is headed toward the coast. It looks bad, like dangerous sailing weather." I paused. Really? I haven't seen anything serious on the radar. "Well, it just popped up. We don't feel comfortable going out into that. Maybe it's best we cancel. We don't want to waste your money, you know." I was disappointed, of course, but I trusted them. "Okay," I said. "If you're sure, I'll call the cruise line and see what I can do." He thanked me and hung up. I went inside, told Chloe, and we both shrugged it off. "Maybe next time," I said, trying not to let the letdown sink in too deeply. That night, I curled up on the couch with a glass of wine, scrolling through Instagram to unwind. That's when it happened. A new story popped up. My mom, yes, my mom, who once took 20 minutes to figure out how to post a picture, had uploaded a video. It was short but clear. She was on the deck of a cruise ship, ocean stretching behind her, laughing with a fruity drink in her hand. Dad waved in the background, grinning from a sun lounger. My thumb froze on the screen. I tapped back, replayed it. Then again. And again. I wasn't wrong. They were there. On the trip. The same one they told me they were canceling. I didn't know what hit me harder: the lie or the ease with which they told it. There had been no thunderstorm, no danger. Just a selfish decision, made quietly, to enjoy the vacation without me ever knowing. Or maybe they didn't care if I found out. That thought burned more than anything. I sat in silence for what felt like an hour. Chloe noticed. "You good?" she asked. I turned the screen toward her. She squinted, then gasped. "Wait, is that?" "Yeah," I said, swallowing the lump in my throat. "That's the cruise." She sat beside me, her expression shifting from confused to furious. "Emma, they lied to you. That's cold." I nodded, eyes still fixed on the looping story. But I wasn't going to cry. Not now. Something clicked inside me. Maybe it was all the years of being the good daughter, the fixer, the forgiver. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I was done. I didn't want revenge. Not the loud, screaming kind. That wasn't me. But I wasn't about to let it slide either. Not this time. The next morning, I opened my laptop and logged into the travel portal I use for work. Since I'd booked everything under my business account, I had access to all details: flights, hotel add-ons, cruise amenities, the linked travel card I'd preloaded for them. Quietly, carefully, I went to work. First, I adjusted their return flights. I rerouted them through a small regional airport in Georgia, Macon, I think, with a 12-hour overnight layover and no direct access to major lounges. No law broken. Just a new, weather advisory route. Completely justifiable. Then, I froze the prepaid travel card they were using. They'd have their phones, but no cruise Wi-Fi. No idea what was coming. And I wasn't going to tell them. Chloe watched me work, wide-eyed.
Damn.
Remind me never to lie to you. I gave her a half-smile. They taught me well. By the evening, I'd finished everything. I went back to my glass of wine, leaned back, and felt something I hadn't expected. Peace. For the first time in a while, I didn't feel like the one who always gave and got nothing in return. I didn't block their numbers. I didn't rage on social media. I just waited. And when the call finally came, I didn't even flinch. It was the next day when the phone finally rang. I knew who it was before I even looked at the screen. Mom, flashing across it in bold letters. I waited a beat. Let it ring twice. Then I picked up, trying to sound casual like I didn't already know everything. Emma? Her voice was already tense. We're in the middle of nowhere. Something's wrong with the flights. They rerouted us through some small airport, Macon, Georgia, I think, and we have to stay overnight. There's no lounge. Barely any food options. It's miserable. I sip my coffee slowly. That's odd. Must have been weather issues or system changes. You know how airlines are. There was a pause. I could hear background noise, an airport announcement, someone arguing nearby. Then she said, "Okay, well, can you maybe look into it from your end? We're trying to check into a nearby hotel, but the card you gave us isn't working. We're stuck." I stood up and walked to the window, keeping my tone even. "Really? That's strange. I'll check on it." "You booked everything, didn't you?" she asked, frustration leaking through. "Can't you fix it?" I let that hang in the air for a second. Then I said, very calmly, "Maybe next time you'll pack some honesty." And I hung up. I didn't answer the next call. Or the one after that. I didn't need to. The silence said everything. I know it might sound harsh, but let me tell you something. This wasn't about a vacation. It wasn't about money or flight routes.
It was about trust.
My whole life, I'd given them the benefit of the doubt. I excused the guilt trips, the dismissiveness, the way they acted like my achievements were just luck. I never asked for anything in return. Not really. Just respect. Maybe some appreciation. Instead, they took what I gave, smiled to my face, and cut me out of their good time like I didn't matter. And maybe in their eyes, I didn't. Maybe they figured I'd never find out. Or worse, maybe they didn't care if I did. For a while after that call, I just sat there, thinking. Not sad, not angry. Just reflective. I thought about birthdays they forgot. The way Mom used to say, "You work too much," right after I bought them gifts. The way Dad would laugh and say, "Must be nice having all that free time," when I took them on trips I paid for. The signs were always there, weren't they? I told Chloe everything. She didn't even try to hold back her reaction.
"That's ice cold," she said.
Like, they could have just said they wanted the trip alone. Still rude, but at least honest. "Exactly," I said. "I wouldn't have loved it, but I wouldn't be doing this." We went out that night, grabbed tacos from a little food truck we liked down in Wynwood. I didn't mention my parents again. I didn't need to. I already knew I was done playing the understanding daughter. That weekend, I took myself to the beach. I laid out a towel, turned off my phone, and watched the waves roll in. The sun was warm, the wind soft, and for once, I wasn't worried about anyone else's needs. It was peaceful, quiet. And in that stillness, I realized something important. I wasn't going to chase love or approval from people who couldn't give it freely. Later that evening, I turned my phone back on. For missed calls from Dad. 2 texts. One from Mom, too. "Mom, we're finally back. What happened, Emma?" "Dad, why didn't you tell us the card was canceled?" That was embarrassing. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I'd already said it all in the only way that seemed to get through. Over the next few days, The silence stretched between us like a rubber band, tight and uncomfortable. I wasn't angry anymore, just tired. I'd given them so many chances to treat me like more than a wallet with legs. And when I finally pulled back, they noticed. Funny how that works. I kept going with my life. Work was steady. I had clients planning honeymoons and anniversary getaways, people genuinely excited to share experiences together. It made me think about what it means to care for someone. Not just the giving, but the seeing. The knowing someone's worth and showing it. A week after they returned from the cruise, I got a handwritten letter in the mail. My parents never sent letters. Inside, it was Mom's writing. Neat but shaky. Emma, we didn't mean to hurt you. We just needed time to ourselves and didn't know how to say that without sounding ungrateful. We messed up. We lied and we're sorry. Your dad, and I feel awful about how it all played out. Please call us. I read it twice, then folded it back up and placed it in a drawer. I wasn't ready to call. I wasn't sure I even wanted to. Sometimes an apology comes too late, not because you don't appreciate it, but because something in you has already shifted.
Grown. Changed.
And going back would mean shrinking again. Chloe saw me holding the letter. You thinking of calling?
Not right now, I said.
Maybe not ever. She nodded. Good. Protect your peace. And that was it. I didn't need them to grovel. I didn't want revenge that left a trail of mess. I just wanted space.
Clarity.
And now I had it. But this wasn't over. Not completely. Because people don't change overnight. And trust, once it's cracked, doesn't glue back the same. What they didn't know was, I had one more choice to make. And it wasn't going to be about them this time. After the letter, I didn't hear from them for a while. A week passed, then two. No calls, no texts. It was quiet and I liked it that way. I wasn't ignoring them to be cruel. I was just done pretending. I didn't want to smooth things over just because they finally realized they messed up. For once in my life, I was putting myself first, and it felt strangely freeing. But you know what's funny? The silence didn't last. It never does with them. Just when I was beginning to find my rhythm again, Dad showed up in Miami. Unannounced. It was a Friday evening. Chloe and I were at home, lounging in the living room. She was painting her nails, and I was halfway through a bottle of red wine when the doorbell rang. We weren't expecting anyone. I opened the door, and there he was, Michael Brooks, standing awkwardly with his cap in his hands like he had something to confess.
Dad.
I said, stunned. What are you doing here? I drove down, he said. Thought we should talk in person. I didn't move. I didn't step aside. I didn't invite him in. After a long pause, I said, Now you want to talk? I know we hurt you, he said, shifting uncomfortably. We were wrong. Your mother's been losing sleep over it. I crossed my arms. You could have told me the truth. That you didn't want to go if I was involved. Or that you wanted it for yourselves. But instead, you made up a storm. A fake emergency. And you let me believe it. He looked down. I didn't think it would matter that much. I thought you'd let it go. That stung. Not because it surprised me, but because it confirmed something I had always suspected. They never saw me as someone they could hurt. Just someone who'd always bounce back, brush it off, keep giving. Well, it did matter, I said. And I don't want an apology just because you got stranded or embarrassed. I want one because you finally realize how deeply you broke my trust. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, I'm sorry, Em.
I really am.
We handled it wrong. I stood there, staring at him. I believed he meant it, but it didn't feel like enough.
Not yet.
Not after everything. I need time, I finally said. And I think you need to understand that love without respect isn't love at all. He nodded, turned to go, and walked away without saying anything else. I didn't cry. I didn't feel satisfied either. I just felt empty. That night, I sat on the balcony and looked out at the lights of Miami. The city was alive and noisy, people rushing toward things that made them feel something. I realized how often I'd silenced my own feelings just to keep peace in the family. I'd learned how to be helpful, generous, Easy to lean on, but I hadn't learned how to say, "This hurt me, and it's not okay." Now I had. The next morning, I went for a walk by the bay. The breeze was strong, the water choppy. I let my phone stay silent in my pocket. No music, no calls. Just me and the world. I needed that. When I got home, there was a message from my mom. Just one line. "Please don't shut us out forever. We miss you." I stared at it for a long time. My thumb hovered over the screen, but I didn't type anything back. I wasn't trying to punish them. I just didn't want to pretend things could go back to what they were. Because they couldn't. That version of me, the one who would forgive too quickly, who swallowed disappointment and dressed it up as understanding, she was gone. I kept going with work. I poured myself into helping a couple plan their dream honeymoon across Italy. Another client wanted a solo retreat in Sedona to find herself again. I smiled reading that email. I understood it in a way I never had before. One night, Chloe and I were having dinner at a Cuban place we loved, and she said, "You seem lighter lately." "Do I?" "Yeah. Like you're not carrying their expectations anymore." I thought about it. I think I just stopped waiting for them to be people they're not. It's sad, but it's also freeing. She raised her glass. To letting go of the mess we didn't create. We clinked glasses, and for the first time in weeks, I laughed without thinking about what I'd lost. But even as I moved forward, I couldn't ignore the small ache that stayed in the background. They were still my parents. I didn't want to erase them from my life completely. I just needed something to change, some kind of sign that they saw me as more than someone they could take for granted. So I made a choice. Not revenge this time. Not punishment. Just boundaries. I sent them one final message. "I love you both. But if we're going to have a relationship, it has to be honest, mutual, and respectful. I won't keep chasing connection when I'm the only one carrying the weight. Take care." That was it. No threats. No drama. Just truth. I hit send and turned off my phone. Then I made myself a cup of tea and curled up with a book. What happened next wasn't something I expected. But life, as I've learned, has its own way of circling back. It was about 3 weeks after I sent that final message. I hadn't heard back. No reply from Mom. No phone call from Dad. Just silence. At first, I thought maybe they were taking time to reflect. Or maybe they were too proud to admit they'd pushed too far. I didn't know what I expected. I just knew I meant every word of what I said. I wasn't going to bend this time. Then one Saturday morning, I got a small envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a photo, an old one. Me, maybe 8 years old, sitting on Dad's shoulders at the beach, my arms stretched out like I was flying. Mom had written something on the back in blue ink. "You were always the strong one. We just never told you enough." I didn't cry, but I felt something shift. That photo wasn't an apology. It wasn't a long explanation, but it was something. A crack in the wall. A small signal that maybe, just maybe, they were starting to see me as more than just the daughter who gave and gave. Still, I didn't call. I carried that photo in my wallet for a few days, not sure what to do with it. Part of me wanted to drive up to Tampa, throw it on their kitchen table, and ask, "Why now?" Another part of me just wanted to tuck it away and keep going. I wasn't ready to open the door all the way again. But I also didn't feel like keeping it locked anymore. Life didn't stop for any of this. Work picked up. I had clients booking trips to Tokyo, Iceland, Morocco, every place I dreamed of going. Chloe joked that I should take one of the trips myself.
"You've earned it," she said.
And she wasn't wrong. But I didn't want to run. I wanted to stay where I was and finish this chapter the right way. Not with revenge, not with bitterness, but with clarity. One evening, I was organizing my files when I found the original cruise itinerary. My parents' names, their cabin number, the spa credits, the excursions, all laid out in neat rows. I stared at it, remembering how excited I was when I first booked it. I genuinely thought I was giving them something special. I wanted them to feel appreciated, cared for. And they threw it away like it didn't matter. But maybe it did matter. Maybe that's why they lied. Maybe they couldn't handle the idea that their daughter had become the one giving them what they never could afford. Maybe pride got in the way. Maybe they thought if they admitted that, they'd lose something, control, dignity, or whatever was left of the parent-child dynamic they used to know. That night, I wrote one more letter. I didn't send it right away. I just wrote it for me. Dear Mom and Dad, I don't need another apology. I needed honesty, and I needed you to see me. Not as someone doing favors. Not as a child who owes you, but as a woman who still tried, even when you made her feel invisible.
I hope you think about that.
I hope you sit with it. If we talk again, I want it to be real. No guilt. No games. Just truth. Until then, take care. Emma. I folded it, sealed it in an envelope, and left it on my desk. Maybe I'd mail it. Maybe not. It didn't matter. The truth was already out. I had already said what needed to be said. A few days later, I ran into an old friend from high school at a coffee shop. We got to talking, and at one point she said, "You always had your life so together. Like nothing could shake you." I laughed a little. That's what people think when you don't show the cracks. And that was it. That's what this whole thing had taught me. I had spent so long being strong, quiet, dependable. But being strong doesn't mean letting people walk over you. It doesn't mean forgiving everything just to keep the peace. Real strength is knowing when to step back, when to draw the line, and when to let others feel the weight of their choices. Weeks turned into months. I still hadn't visited Tampa. They hadn't asked. Maybe they understood I wasn't ready. Maybe they were still figuring things out themselves. And then one Sunday afternoon, I got a message from Mom. It wasn't long. Just a photo of her and Dad sitting on their porch. Underneath it, the caption, "We miss you. We're learning. Still hoping." I stared at it for a long time. I didn't reply that day. But I didn't delete it either. I sat on my balcony, a glass of wine in hand, and thought about how things change. How people either grow or stay stuck. How sometimes it takes losing your place in someone's life to finally understand what that place meant. I wasn't angry anymore. Not really. I was just wiser, sharper, and softer in the right places.
So that's my story.
A story about betrayal, not the dramatic kind, but the quiet kind. The kind that sneaks in through people you love, the ones you'd never expect it from. But it's also a story about resilience. About standing up not with shouting, but with silence. About choosing yourself when others won't. And revenge? I didn't need fire or fury. I just needed them to sit with the truth. To feel it. To face the mirror I quietly held up. Because sometimes the loudest revenge is peace. And that peace? I earned every bit of it.